check, check, check.
Hello?
Hey, what's going on, man? Hello?
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right.
Oh, sorry for the delay, man.
Hey, no problem.
As soon as I sent you an invite, phone started ringing. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I got like 3 phone calls and one up with my mom. I was like, oh, sheesh, I can't get off this one.
No problem. Hey, just I'm not sure about my my cell reception in this room. So if I start breaking up or the connection seems weak, just let me know. I'll try to move around.
Yeah, most definitely. I'll check it out and see what's going on with it. Should be all right.
It's a little crackly. It's a little crackly for me right now, but maybe we'll be able to work through it. I don't know.
Hey, give me 1 second. Give me a quick mic check real quick. I'm just trying to level up my mics here.
All right. Test. Mic check.
All right. Check. Okay. Just looking at my meters here. All right. How you doing, man?
Good. We could also try this. I'm doing this through my phone right now.
Yeah.
Do you want me to try it through my computer? Maybe that's better.
Yeah.
My internet connection is probably better than my cell connection.
Yeah, I can send you another invite. You just click on the same invite through your computer, and it should work.
All right. Cool. All right. I'll try that.
All right, cool. I'll send you another invite through the DM.
Okay. Cool.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Is this any better?
Yeah. For the moment, yeah. It's all right.
Yeah. You sound a little clearer to me.
Okay. Yeah, it should be fine. Let me get my. Okay, great. Yeah. That sounds fine to me. Right now, everything's checking out on my meters and so forth. So yeah, everything sounds good. Tell me something good, man. How's it going?
I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
No, I said, tell me something good. How's it going now?
Oh, yeah, man. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. I haven't announced this or anything.
Hey, before you do that, I'll just give you a heads up. I've already started streaming, but it's not a crowded room whatsoever. It's like probably 1-2 people here, so we'll hold that on the.
Okay, well, never mind that.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah, nothing's going on just yet. I wanted to catch you on that. I think I got like one person or whatever looking. It's not gonna be a major stream. I didn't even announce that I was doing it, but apparently I've got one cat who's listening. Whoever it is, appreciate you. Whoever it is, that's peeking in and see what's happening right now.
I don't know whether it's my connection or what, but it could be my speaker volume. I've got you turned all the way up, and I'm just struggling to hear you a little bit.
Really? Okay. Hey, check. because I'm clipping on my end. Well, okay, now I'm clipping. Well, I was a second ago. Still nothing. It's still the same.
I can hear you. It's a little low, but I can hear you.
Okay. Let me know if it's too bad, because right now mine is almost at the point where it's clipping, and yeah, I don't know why that is. Hey, check. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Let me if I'm killing you, please let me know. I'll repeat myself and do whatever I got to do to make everything good. But right now it looks like
I might end up asking you to repeat yourself a couple of times, but I think it's okay.
No problem. Most people ask me to repeat myself all the time. It's quite all right. Yeah, I wonder what that is. 1 second. Let me see if I can work some out here. 1 second.
Okay.
Hey, check. 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 How is that now? Is that still low?
It's better.
Okay. All right. Ooh, check. Keep mixing some stuff here. All right. Okay, so I just made a couple quick adjustments there. If that's not better, just let me know, and again, I'll repeat myself for everything I need to do.
Yeah, it's better for sure.
Okay, great, solid. All right, man. So you know what we're talking about. I want to get into. I apologize. I did not get to do what I wanted to do. I didn't get the chance to get the PDF of the almanac, which I was supposed to get 3 weeks ago. I ended up not getting it for some reason or another. I ended up missing out on something, and I just didn't get it. But obviously, you did the almanac portions for both New Orleans and Tampa, so you got a pretty deep insight, or at least a much better insight than most casual fans and so forth. And I just kind of want to get your opinion on a few of these things, specifically the quarterbacks and the head coaches, to see how their head-to-head matchups look.
Sure.
Because I feel like that's going to be the biggest determinant factor of the Saints and Bucks next weekend. I think that's really underrated. And that's kind of something I need to get into. Throughout the week, I'm just going to end up doing a few podcasts, kind of going back and forth on all the matchups, offensive, defensive lines, and so forth, the offensive quote-unquote weapons, and defensive backs, and all that stuff. But I don't think there's anything more important than the head coach and the quarterback. Those are the two big differences between this year and the previous few years in which the Saints have kind of cleaned up on the Bucks, which makes me very mad.
They sure have, yeah.
Not a fan of that shit. All right, give me 1 second, man. I'll hit my intro and we'll just go into like we do, just a little natural conversation there and see what happens.
Sounds good.
All right, give me 1 second. And I'm recording.
Right now, we'd like to bring on a young man who believes in doing things his own way. Based on the way he kind of gets next to all of the folks who've seen him work, his way has got to be pretty hip. So let's lay some noise. Rebel. Without a pause, I'm lowering my level.
I don't know what the hell that was. 1 second. What the hell was that? Okay, that was all fucked up. All right, try that one more damn time.
Right now, we'd like to bring on a young man who believes in doing things his own way. Based on the way he kind of gets next to all of the folks who've seen him work, his way has got to be pretty hip. So let's lay some noise.
Listen on me, boy. 2000 and beyond. This so-called democracy.
Hey, welcome back, fellow Bucks fans. This is Outside Leverage Podcast. I am Robert Green, your host. We are now 7 days away. 7 days away from the NFL kickoff, Week 1 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is 8:53 Eastern Standard Time. This time next week, we will all be talking about what went completely right and what went absolutely wrong. And people will be claiming or crowning the Tampa Bay Buccaneers either a complete, absolute bust of the free agency period and off season, or we will be Super Bowl champions waiting to be crowned. That's how it goes in fandom, especially Tampa Bay Buccaneer fandom. We either all in winning or all in tanking, one way or the other. That's what we'll be around this time, 7 days from now, which is going to be hilarious. Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Saints, Week 1. Tonight, I have a very special insight. I think somebody who can give us a lot of information for that matchup. Joining me tonight, I have Thomas Bassinger of the Tampa Bay Times. He's also key contributor to the Football Outsiders Almanac for 2019. Thomas has contributed to both the Tampa Bay Buccaneers side as well as the Saints side. So he's kind of gone back and studied both teams' tendencies, stats, everything, just to comb over the entire season to see what we can kind of get from that info from last season and what may carry over into 2020, Week 1, next week. Thomas Bassinger, Tim, how you feeling, man?
Hey, Robert. Thanks for having me on, man. I can't believe football season. I can't believe it's upon us.
I know, right? After all this waiting, all the ups and downs and question marks, it just may happen. They just may pull it off an entire season of NFL football. We got to get through Week 1 first, which is next week. It's going to be crazy.
I know it is. It's been, 7 months since we've had NFL football? It feels like 70 years.
I know, right? It's one of the craziest off seasons, period. I mean, never mind just the NFL, just everything that's going on in the world. But including everything that's going on in the NFL, man, it is super crazy. And at the top of all the craziness of every single thing that's crazy in the NFL, there's nothing beating what the Bucs are doing. The Bucs are a part of every major headline that's happening in the NFL every single month. There's nothing bigger than what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are doing or what they have done. And that's for better or worse, man, that's amazing. For better or worse, we the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the talk of the NFL. Crazy.
It is. I can't recall a time like this ever since I've been around the team and following the team, that there's ever been really a stretch like this where the Bucs were just the talk of the NFL, the sports world even at times. Major headlines on ESPN. Everything from uniforms to the quarterback and Tom Brady to kickers to running backs. I mean, it has just been. I can't recall an off season like this. I mean, it unfortunately reminds me of the Washington off season maybe about 2 decades ago, and the Eagles team about 10 years ago, the infamous Dream Team. So hopefully this Bucs team, for the sake of Bucs fans, doesn't follow that same path and continues to remain relevant and interesting well into the winter and January and maybe February.
God willing, because normally we are just trying to pray to get to mid-October and not have to be looking at the draft. So yeah, this is definitely a different feeling. And I usually, for myself, I usually don't try to get. I make a concerted effort to not get caught up in the hype, not get caught up in the talk and whatever. But I can't say I'm anywhere close to getting in that talk, but it's almost impossible to ignore how much hype is around this team and how much actual good vibes are around this team. This is a different feeling. It's completely different. I think at least 2015 when the last franchise quarterback hopeful came in, where we felt like things was going to change, and then those 5 years just felt so dark. But this feels like something completely different. Like it's so ridiculous, the amount of talent. It's crazy, the amount of talent that is on this team, the potential that is on this team is completely through the roof. That I've actually never seen any football team in the NFL at the level that this team is in. But it's going to come down to a lot more than just the talent on the roster. It's going to come down to a lot of issues that have to get ironed out. But on paper, which we love to talk about and I love to crown teams and players on paper, there's nothing like what's happening with the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Absolutely. You brought up 2015, that season. I'm also right now thinking of the 2017 season, coming off the 9-7 year. Well, was that? Yeah, that was 9-7 in 2016.
Yeah,
that was the Hard Knocks off season, and that was supposed to be the year where the Bucs made the leap, right?
Yeah.
And so, and we were talking about a culture change that off season, and it wasn't. It didn't take long before, I believe, by that fall, we were hearing rumors of John Gruden's return to not just the NFL but to Tampa Bay. So things turned ugly quickly, which just goes to show, to your point. On paper, there are just so many variables during the course of the NFL season, some of which are outside of a team's control. Your schedule. It can look easy or difficult now, but once you start playing the games, teams can be stronger than you thought. And especially this off season. This season, who knows what impact COVID-19 is going to have. I mean, you could potentially lose some key players to this virus, and that can change the outcome. If you lose, say, your left tackle or one of your key defensive backs, that certainly can change the outcome of a game. So, it seems as if the coronavirus hasn't affected the NFL too much to this point, outside of not playing preseason games. We'll see once the season kicks off.
Yeah, and the preseason games, those are more important than a lot of people probably recognize until now. Especially when you got new players coming in the way that we do, because we now not just have new players, we have basically new leadership on the field with the quarterback situation and Tom Brady, as well as Gronkowski, two guys who have a winning reputation in the league. And then the latter, who is coming off of a year's retirement, his not being able to play and actually get, assimilated to preseason games, and especially playing in the heat of Florida and training in Florida. That's going to end up being something to watch for, to see how he holds up. But yeah,
I'm not sure, what to make of this Bucks team just yet. I mean, of course, we know the players, we know the names, but usually, we'd have 4 games, 4 preseason games to kind of pick apart and get some kind of feel for this football team. But I wish I knew what was going to happen, but it's to me it's harder than ever. September is always a crazy month in the NFL, full of upsets. I think it's harder than ever to call now because we have absolutely nothing to go off of other than some names on paper.
Right, and that whole paper champion deal, that's going to be that's actually going to be the case for everyone because nobody's been able to see what the other team offers. And again, those preseason games, those are meant to see what you have as far as team building and team depth specifically, to see who's who, to see who can come in when your starters are
Robert?
down. Yeah. Are you still there? Are you there? Hello? Hey, check. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know what happened there.
No, I think that was my. I think that was my app for the podcast, the Anchor app.
It just closed on you, or
It just closed. It just shut down. And said, "Thanks, you're done recording." Like, I guess I am. Damn it! Shit, I didn't mean to do it.
Well, I can actually, for whatever it's worth, I can hear you better now.
Okay, Great. All
Pretty
right.
crisp.
Okay, 1 second. Let me hit the record button. What the hell was I talking about? I missed it. What were we talking about? What I missed?
We were talking about, we were
Preseason.
kind of talking about this team on paper, and I was talking about the preseason and how, usually, we'd have 4 preseason games to pick apart and evaluate, and it's really hard to kind of predict what's going to happen. It's always hard to predict what's going to happen in September, but it's especially difficult to predict what's going to happen now because we have nothing to go off of other than names on paper.
All right, give me 1 second. We'll hit the record button. We'll get back to it. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what the hell how that even happened. All right, here we go. All right, yeah. So again, we got we just got paper champs. So right now, pretty much every team, all we have is the roster, and we don't even have that fully until at least Tuesday. Tuesday is the last day or the first day that we can actually look and be like, okay, this may be the roster that the week 1 teams go into the game with. Anything made after that is be pretty difficult, especially the Chiefs and the Texans. They got the first game up on the NFL kickoff, so they got to make their decisions much sooner than that. Everybody has to basically prioritize getting their roster so quickly this year. It's an amazing scenario.
It is. It's so hard. It's so hard to know what's going to happen. I mean, it's always hard to predict September in the NFL. Especially with these different off seasons, but especially this different off season where we've had no preseason games, no real competition to kind of pick apart and evaluate. So, I mean, really, anything can happen these first couple of weeks. And I see that the Saints are favored by 3.5. It wouldn't surprise me if the Bucs pull this one off.
Yeah, I'd be pissed if they don't pull it off. I mean, this is the first year. This is the first year I could think of in which the expectations are so much higher than I would have thought. This roster, the way it's built, and I have issues with the way this roster is built, but with all these names, all these winners, all this potential, I don't even have the word to. I really, honestly, don't have the word to describe it. It's amazing. It's crazy. It's almost a burden. It's almost a burden to have this much talent. So if the Bucs don't pull off, if they don't come out swinging, looking good, it's just going to be so much of a disappointment. There's going to be so much to be said about it. And I know I mentioned earlier, fans tend to go off the rails so quick, so fast, jump ship because of a loss. But overall, this team has so much going behind it. It's like every loss is going to feel like this season or in the off season. It's been like, it's almost been a bad dream. Not a bad dream. It's been like a dream that's not coming true. It's so weird to say. It's almost stupid, but it feels like a dream that is just not coming true because this team feels like, and I hate this term, it feels like a dream team. It feels like a fantasy football team.
Oh, it certainly does. I mean, you've got Tom Brady at quarterback, you've got Leonard Fournette and LaShawn McCoy at running back, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at receiver, and Rob Gronkowski and O.J. Howard at tight end. I mean, it really is a fantasy football team.
Yeah, you would not be able to pull this off in a video game. You wouldn't. It's not a video game that's ever been made in which this would have made sense. And you'd be like, yeah, this is real. Like it just wouldn't. I'm at a loss for words. Every time I actually think about it and speak on it out loud, it feels unreal.
What do you think would make it feel more real to you? I mean, do you just need to see Tom Brady throwing a football in a Bucks uniform in an actual game, will it sink in then? Well, what needs to happen, do you think, for it to feel more real to you?
For me, personally, for it to feel real, like a lot of the stuff that's happened wouldn't just happen. I would feel it would feel real if I actually felt like there was an actual plan in place. But that's what makes this feel. That's what makes this feel like a fantasy to me. It feels like things are just being plucked out of the air. Like these, by chance, Leonard Fournette becomes available. By chance, Tom Brady became available. By chance, Rob Gronkowski came out of retirement. By chance, Shady McCoy, he's on the Bucks. Because some of these moves, I feel like, in a sense, almost don't in the world they don't make sense. So I don't know if it's gonna ever feel real. It's never is. It's gonna feel real, of course. Obviously, I apologize when the games actually kick off because it is what it is at that point. But again, some of these moves are just so unbelievable at this point that they've been made. I just don't know how to say it feels real. It's beyond. It's literally beyond my belief at this stage. A week away from NFL kickoff in New Orleans, this roster is goddamn ridiculous. There's no way for me to describe it any other way. It's goddamn ridiculous. But with great power comes great responsibility. None of this stuff is a given. No game is a given, especially week one, facing Sean Payton, an evil genius who I absolutely can't stand, and Drew Brees, a guy I respect but I can't stand on the field. It's going to come down to a hell of a whole lot more than what's on your roster for week one, and that's why I wanted to speak to you about next week. Again, you contributed to the Football Outsiders Almanac, so you did a lot of studying between these two teams. The big deal that everybody want to look at, and understandably, the quarterbacks. Drew Brees, again, has had a hell of a good time playing against the Buccaneers. This will be the sixth meeting that he faces a Tom Brady-led team. Right now, I believe Drew Brees has the 3-2 edge as far as his team winning. These two guys are being talked as, first ballot Hall of Famers, the two of them. Both of these guys are like top 5 in, I believe, touchdown throws and everything. These cats are so close as far as success individually, with the exception of Tom Brady, obviously winning 5 more Super Bowls than Drew Brees. What did you see from Drew Brees in your studying of his play last year that may carry over to week one against the Bucks? Like, what did you see, or like what of his numbers stood out to you?
Well, what stood out to me is that Drew Brees doesn't seem to be slipping at all. He continues to be one of the most efficient and accurate quarterbacks in the NFL and has shown no real signs of decline. Now, it's hard for somebody like Drew Brees to detect signs of a decline, because this hasn't been a quarterback for a long time who was chucking the ball down the field. His average depth of target has been low for several years. So it's not as though we've seen a drop in that. It's not as though we've seen a drop in his completion percentage or expected his completion percentage over expectation. All of his by any measure, he is the same quarterback he has been for the last several years. One thing that stood out to me is that his average depth of target last year was 6.7 yards, which ranked 33rd.
Mm-hmm.
But he was still, one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. He doesn't need to throw the ball deep to be effective. Now, compare that with Brady last year. Brady's average depth of target was 7.9, so a little bit more than a yard per target than Breeze. I'm expecting that to tick back up this year. I'm not expecting Brady to be throwing the ball down the field like Jameis Winston did last year, who had an average depth of target of 10.9, ranked second in the NFL.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me to see that tick up, beyond 8 yards per target, 8.5 yards per target, and for Brady to rank somewhere around the middle of the league in that department. Breeze is still going to stay around, that 7 yards per target. I don't expect that offense to change all that much, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some new wrinkles. One of the big things that stood out to me, watching the games, looking at the numbers, is just how heavily they relied on Michael Thomas. I mean, to the extreme. Last season, they threw to Michael Thomas. This is Drew Brees and Teddy Bridgewater combined, threw to Michael Thomas 33% of the time, which was the highest rate in the NFL.
33%?
33% of their passes went to Michael Thomas. Now they threw to their number 2 receiver, which was Ted Ginn, 10% of the time, which was the lowest rate in the NFL. So there was some imbalance in their offense. We think of the Saints as this multiple offense, and they are, but they so heavily relied on Michael Thomas last year. And yet they completed. Team defenses knew that the Saints were going to throw passes to Michael Thomas, and they still couldn't stop him. But that imbalance really stood out to me, and which is why I think, not just in this game, but this season, to me, Emmanuel Sanders, who I think is still a very good receiver and made helped transform that 49ers pass offense last year. I really expect him to be, it's cliche to say the X factor, but I really he's really the variable that I think this game could turn on when the Bucks kick off Sunday. How that just adds another element to that Saints to an already very, very good Saints offense. Now, I mean, that's a guy who can line up outside, inside, in the backfield even. How you defend him and also contain Michael Thomas. You're not going to be able to stop Michael Thomas, but if you can contain him, how you do that. And also, there's Emmanuel Sanders and Jared Cook and Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill sometimes. That's really what the Saints have going for them is, they're really going to strain defenses this year because they have so many weapons and they can cause so much confusion before the snap.
Yeah, which is something that Drew Brees has been known for. He can recognize a lot of defenses and switch in and out of plays and adjust things pretty well. He's pretty active. He's pretty active before the snap, and that's something that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have lacked for pretty much forever. Like there's not been a quarterback who can like notice defenses and actually make adjustments as well as any of the veterans that have been in the division. that changes this year. But going back to Michael Thomas real quick, Michael Thomas, man, I was thinking about this earlier. It's so much how he's so much like Julio Jones. Like everybody who played the Atlanta Falcons knew that Julio Jones was the guy, but you can't stop him. He's going to get his. It's like Michael Jordan or something like those kind of players just exist where they're going to get theirs because they can catch short passes and take off with it. And that's kind of one of the dangers of playing with a quarterback as good as a Drew Brees because he can get rid of the ball so quickly, and he has a target like Michael Thomas who can catch it and go. That's a really, really big weapon in their offense with him. And his being on the receiving end of 33% of the offense, that's crazy. That's super crazy.
It is.
Here's some results.
And to go back to your point a second ago about the Bucs offense and the pre-snap adjustments. I mean, you're absolutely right that hasn't been much of a factor in recent seasons. And Arians said so earlier himself this past off season. When he said that he was eager to see Tom Brady run the audible system, our check with me stuff, the quarterback puts us where the quarterback puts us in the best plays. He said, "We didn't do a lot of that. We did some of it last year, not a lot of it," which I thought was really revealing, and which I think foreshadows, a big change in this offense this coming year, whether it's pre-snap motion, audibles. I think we're going to have a quarterback who can manipulate defenses like we haven't seen in recent seasons.
I mean, honest to goodness, I think the last quarterback that I saw that was continuously checking out plays, I was just about to lie. Ryan Fitzpatrick, when he was in Tampa, he did it a little bit. He did it more often than the regular starter, and I remember making note of that. Prior to that, it was third-round pick Mike Glennon and his few appearances that he played in Tampa when he started, all of 2013 or whatever it was. That was one of the quarterbacks that was one of the first things that I noticed when he stepped in place of the former starting quarterback, number 5 back then, was that he did it a good bit. Other than that, the few times that Fitzpatrick did it, that was it feels so sad to say. Like, man, it felt like a breath of fresh air to see a quarterback go behind the line and continuously, frequently change in and out of plays based on what the defense was giving him. It just feels weird. It just felt so weird to be so excited about having a quarterback that can do that. But with the incoming Tom Brady, 20-year vet, who's seen every defense that you could imagine, at least that's what he says, and that's how a lot of people feel. This cat can come in and he can do some stuff that obviously has never been done in Tampa, which, for better or worse, it's just gonna be such a celebratory feeling. Like every time he gets behind center, every time he gets under center, it's gonna be like, that's something I've not seen before, or that's something that's magical. It's really gonna be about him and his presence and what he can bring, and he brings a hell of a whole lot that's not been in Tampa. You mentioned his. You kind of mentioned some of his tendencies from last season as well, and his depth of targets and so forth. With weapons like Ronald Jones coming out of the backfield, Mike Evans on the outside, Chris Godwin on the outside and sometimes in the slot, Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, and with the Bucs playing in 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, do you foresee his targets being more so letting the guys on the outside as well as the tight ends kind of clear everything out for Ronald Jones? Do we see like a bigger uptick in Ronald Jones's receptions and yards in that category being a stronger weapon for Tom Brady? How do you see him being used?
Well, we know that he's made great use of his running backs in New England. You know, it's I just don't see right now a running back on this roster that you can trust in passing situations. The one that they had, they've let go in Dare Ogunbowale.
Oh no, I just oh man, no.
So yes, Leonard Fournette saw 100 targets and caught, I think it was 76 last season, but he didn't do a whole lot with them. You know, it's not as though the Jaguars were designing their offense around passes to Leonard Fournette. You know, those were check down type passes. Mm-hmm. And we've seen, Ronald Jones has never really been a natural pass catcher going back to his days at USC. So Keyshawn Vaughn is a rookie, and so I just don't see that type of back on this roster at this time, and it's even harder to make that proclamation. You know, given that we haven't seen any preseason games, so that's one of the things, Robert, that I'm just really curious about how Tom Brady works his running backs into the receiving game.
See, I actually have. I feel like I've seen enough out of Leonard Fournette based on his previous years. Last year was kind of iffy, up and down, what have you, but his previous years as well as his collegiate career, I never saw him having an issue being a pass catcher. He seemed like he'd always been a pretty good pass catcher for me, as far as a running back. Like I never seen him as a liability in the passing game. I've seen him catch it and literally have power at the catch and break tackles and be able to do things with it. I didn't do a deep enough dive into all of last season to see what was the cause for his statistical output in the passing game last year. But just based on what I had seen on him in the few years that he played at LSU and his early in his rookie season or what have you, his rookie and his second season, I felt like he was good in the passing game. Like he was one of those guys that you didn't have to take off the field for that. And for Ronald Jones, gosh, man, Ronald Jones had some good catches and some runs last year as well. It was the opportunity. For me, it felt like it was just the opportunity. He would be open in the flat. He'd be open with, the linebacker on him. He just didn't get the ball. I didn't feel like I saw enough opportunities with him getting passes to actually show what he could do, or at least for people to appreciate what he can do. Hopefully, with Tom Brady or any other quarterback other than what was here last year, would be, good enough, quick enough, smart enough to get the balls out to whatever running back is on the field when you got guys who can spread the field out like the wide receivers that are on this team.
Yeah, I was really curious when the Bucs signed Tom Brady and everything we've heard about this offseason about Ronald Jones. I was really curious to see how that relationship would develop, and we may not kind of get to see that to the scale that I thought we were going to. To me, Leonard Fournette is not a significant upgrade over Ronald Jones. But to your point, I think one edge that Fournette may provide over Ronald Jones. He's not a great pass blocker, but he may be good enough as a pass catcher where he's not a total liability. Like he's pretty good at protecting the football. He doesn't fumble all that often. And that's one thing that the Saints have done. Well, one of many things that the Saints have done through the years is they've been really good at protecting the football, and obviously the Bucs have not.
Ooh, no.
So when you're looking and like those are little things, kind of on the margins that that are the difference between good teams and bad teams. So okay, so Leonard Fournette might not be Christian McCaffrey, right?
Right.
But if he's not turning the ball over, and the Bucks have a big lead, it's not going to matter how efficient or inefficient he is. So yeah, just to add to your point, if he's serviceable in the pass game, and he doesn't and he protects the football, the Bucks will be in decent shape there. I just don't see him being worth the $2 million. I just don't see him being $2 million worth of an upgrade over Ronald Jones.
That's and I think that's a valid point. Just for me from a team building perspective, which is something I've looked at for the past few years. I've had issues with how this team was being built, and I've kind of been on Jason Light's head for not having a plan, just kind of going with the flow, it's just super weird to me for a GM. Like there's not been a plan or what have you. So to bring in a Leonard Fournette while you have Ronald Jones on the roster, who is in his third year, basically the make or break year for pretty much every young star. Like your third year is where you have to kind of make a name for yourself. You have to do something to stand out. For them to have Leonard Fournette on a 1-year contract and then have Ronald Jones on the roster at the same time, like you want to validate one of those two, and it's not like and it's really a lot of things have to go well for you to validate both of them, and then you throw in a third round running back and Keyshawn Vaughn. And it's like the value of one of those three guys, if not two of those guys, is going to go down significantly. And it's just it feel like it's a weird build. It's a weird build, but that's another story on another episode of a podcast, because that's going to be. I'm just going to go the hell off talking about that. I think I've done it before at one point, but the building of the roster is kind of curious again. But when you look at That's why I felt like a video game when you look at all the talent that is on this roster, all the potential that is on this roster. It feels like a dream because it's something that probably shouldn't happen. You shouldn't have this much talent. As dumb as that sound, as dumb as that may sound, unless there's a plan, unless the stars line up and you actually have a plan, which the Bucks have not over the last 6 years, including the 5 years that Jason Light has had control of the final roster. It has to be put together well. Acquiring talent and actually utilizing talent in a good way are completely and vastly different. It's not like collegiate football where you can just get 4 and 5 star players and put them on the field because your roster is so big you can just rotate them in and out and they can all make a name for themselves in some way, somehow. That's not the way it works in the NFL. I've never seen it really work that way. But again, that's a different story. I want to get back to Tom Brady and the matchup with him from the quarterback side of Drew Brees. Was there anything that you saw? We talked about the decline or the lack of decline from Drew Brees. Was there anything that you saw in your numbers from last year that's a concern for Tom Brady?
Yeah, there are some red flags here, and nobody's really going to want to confront it because he's the GOAT, right? 6 Super Bowls, 3 MVPs, if I'm not mistaken.
3 MVPs, yep.
But and yes, his weak supporting cast, it's a valid point. Mm-hmm. But consider last season he posted his lowest touchdown total since 2006, his lowest touchdown rate of his career, his lowest completion percentage since 2013, his lowest yards per attempt since 2002, his lowest yards per completion since 2008, his lowest passer rating since 2013. And by Football Outsiders efficiency metrics, DVOA, he posted his lowest passing DVOA of his career. So there are some red flags here, and it's difficult to separate, quarterback from receiver. But all of these, Brady's had some weak supporting casts before, and hasn't his performance hasn't quite dipped like it has these past couple of seasons. Mm-hmm. And then also what stood out to me. Now this is somewhat conditional because full season performance is more predictive than half season performance. There's a caveat here, which is that we're in uncharted territory with Tom Brady, 43-year-old quarterback, and we're picking apart his performances from the past couple of seasons, looking for signs of decline. Mm-hmm. So again, given that he's a 43-year-old quarterback, we've never seen somebody perform at this level this late into his career. We know that quarterback performance can decline suddenly. What stands out to me last year is that from the first half of the season to the second half of the season, he fell from an above-average quarterback to a below-average quarterback.
In what metrics? What metrics was that?
Using Football Outsiders metrics, defense adjusted value over average.
Okay.
And I don't know that he's had. I'm looking over his numbers now. I don't know that he's had that quite that kind of a drop off in at least the past 10 years. So is this just football randomness? It could be, mm-hmm. Or is this the signs of a quarterback that's breaking down late in the season? That could be too. I don't really know. As I said, full season performance tends to be more predictive than half season performance. But in Brady's case, this could go either way.
Okay.
I think he's probably got another really good season in him. But there is, I think a not insignificant percentage chance that this deteriorates late in the season.
Did you? Quick question. This is almost a random question in that world. When you look at his decline, was there another way to look at another quarterback's decline? Like let's say Peyton Manning, which was a pretty sharp decline after his injury. And I'm trying to think who else. But I think Peyton Manning would probably be the only decline I can think of that I would actually try to measure up to. But his was obviously because of his, well, not just his age, but also that injury to his neck. I was just trying to see if there was a way to compare the two. I guess I have to probably do that offline as well and come back and take a look at it. But that's what I would be very interested in, is his decline versus another player's decline at that age. And I think I would put Brett Favre in that category as well, to kind of get a compare and contrast to see if there's any kind of correlation in the decline and how quickly it actually comes.
Well, that's funny because I did some research on Drew Brees. So how I was saying a second ago that full season performance is more predictive, and Drew Brees had kind of a late season swoon in 2018, and some people were warning that this is like Peyton Manning's late 2014 swoon, and so this is a signal that Breeze is on the verge of decline. And it turns out that Breeze bounced back, right? So, I think the takeaway in general is that what happens in December doesn't necessarily carry over to January, let alone September. Brett Favre, going back to his second to last season, he showed no signs of decline. Same for Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
When we predict a quarterback's decline, I mean, if we keep saying it enough, eventually we're going to be right.
Right. Hey, progress over predictions all the damn time for me. But that's how it goes. People predict, players going down, but like when they had a bad year last year or a bad performance last year. I think you and I are both on the same wave when we talk about O.J. Howard. A lot of people wanted to write him off as if he didn't have two damn near phenomenal first seasons before switching into an offense where he was an additional right tackle for basically his whole damn existence last year. And everybody wrote him off as if, or started to write him off as if he wasn't who he was. Like, yeah, he's off. Like, he fell off. Like, no, he just had a bad season. Had a lot of stuff that was going on, a lot of variables into his play, which caused the results that he saw. So, yeah. But, yeah, you're right. A lot of people want to predict. And, if you keep predicting it enough, then, yeah, you'll eventually be right.
And that's why I kind of characterize it as I do. Is like, yeah, I think I understand why the Bucks were interested in Tom Brady. Obviously, 2 years I think was going a bit far. Given that I mean, we just have no idea how a quarterback's going to perform at age 43, at age 44. No. All signs, there's I think a lot of signs point to Tom Brady still being an effective quarterback. Maybe expecting, I think, him to perform at the level he has in recent history is a lot. He might not be the kind of guy that can carry a team, but with this roster, he shouldn't have to. And this is a good enough offensive line. I think Donovan Smith had a sneaky good season last year in pass protection. Ali Marpet and Ryan Jensen are top-notch offensive linemen at their positions. Mm-hmm. You've got a promising rookie in Tristan Wirfs. So, and then of course there's the receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Gronkowski and O.J. Howard. To expand on your point about O.J. Howard. I'm still high on O.J. Howard, and I'm buying O.J. Howard stock. Rob Gronkowski, he was in retirement last season, and he did that in part because it was another back surgery or retirement. I don't know how many games we're going to get out of Rob Gronkowski, and I don't know how effective he'll be in those games. Maybe it'll just be like it was when they were in New England. But I think it's dangerous to count on that. To have O.J. Howard second on that depth chart, that's the one position on this team that I'm really not concerned about at all. I think that's maybe the deepest position on the roster is tight end. Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, and then Cam Brate.
Yeah. And I believe Anthony Claire. He's also there. He's one of my. He's actually one of my favorite guys. He's a solid catcher. He gets a lot of he gets a lot of notoriety for being a blocker, basically that same role that O.J. Howard was forced into, and just being an additional right tackle. But Claire can catch, and he's got some athleticism to him, man. I like him a lot, a great deal actually.
Yeah, and when you think about it, I said probably the deepest position on the roster. Even, we think the Bucks are set at receiver with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but I mean, if either one of those two miss significant time, I mean, they're suddenly very thin there, right?
Absolutely, and it's been my saying for years until your wide receivers can all vie for the number 2 spot, you need to continue building. Granted, I absolutely love Justin Watson. Love Justin Watson. I like what Tyler Johnson could be. Scotty Miller has a lot of talk behind him, but I can say it, and I will. Scotty Miller, as much as I like him, as much as I hope he can be a good player, he quite literally is getting a hell of a whole lot of attention because he's a short white dude that reminds people of Wes Welker, Edelman, and the whatever sticker or whatever name you can think of that came out of New England. That's literally why he gets so much attention. However, the dude has potential. He's fast. He's got talent. He's got all this stuff, but people are talking him up as if he could be in the place of a Chris Godwin. He can't. That Wes Welker Edelman player, that's Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is that slot guy. Chris Godwin is that tough dude who would take a shot over the middle. Chris Godwin is that guy who can catch a short one and take it to the house every damn time. Like that's his spot. Scotty Miller, I don't know if Scotty Miller is going to be big enough, strong enough to play in the slot and be a really strong guy. I'd be very, very welcome to see it. I'd be happy to see him do that and surprise me. Again, he has talent. He can play, but he's gonna have to show a whole hell of a lot of toughness to validate that that role that everybody's trying to place him in, as if he's again, the Wes Welkers and the Edelmans of the world. That's a hell of a whole lot for him to live up to, and it's unjust that he has to, or it's unjust that people want to throw that at him. But again, it's literally because of his appearance. It has nothing to do with what they've seen on film, because it's not there yet, at least not in Tampa Bay.
That's one of the best points I've heard about the Bucks all off season. The talk about who's going to be the Wes Welker, the Julian Edelman. This team has already had it, and his name is Chris Godwin. He does so much on this offense from the outside, from the slot, as a blocker. He really is the most versatile receiver on this offense, and maybe with all due respect to Mike Evans, maybe the best all around receiver on this football team. Yeah,
I would say he is. I honestly would say he is, and I've watched him since Penn State, and I was a fan of his at Penn State. Both him and Hamilton. I'm still waiting to see what comes out of him. Hamilton was actually was the number 1 wide receiver, if I'm not mistaken, while they were at Penn State. But yeah, man, Chris Godwin is just a hell of a player. He's just a tough dude with a whole lot of talent and a whole lot of heart. He can do it all. I don't think I'm not on board with he can take Mike Evans' spot as a wide receiver 1 just because Mike has to be double teamed. For the most part. Mike Evans is an absolute mismatch, physical mismatch above everything else. Chris Godwin can run all the routes. Chris Godwin can fight off tackles. Chris Godwin, however, I don't think is a mandatory double team. Not with a good quarterback. With a good quarterback, Mike Evans I think he's gonna be a damn near mandatory double team. You can't do a damn thing about him. I'm not kidding when I tell you, do not be surprised when you see Mike Evans doing Randy Moss type things on the field with a quarterback that can actually get him the ball in space. when he's got 2 or 3 steps in front of a cornerback. I will not be surprised. I tell people now, do not be surprised if you see him straight up mossing folks. And I've never used that term a day in my life until tonight. But they're gonna have to they may have to rename that. But Mike Evans can burn people, and he's big enough to just bully the hell out of them. And I expect to see that with a quarterback that can actually put the ball where he can get it routinely and have it not be a damn surprise. Like I feel like that can happen. I'm not predicting it. I'm not telling you that's something that's guaranteed, but I'm telling you, do not be surprised to see Mike Evans highlight reel catches, burns every other week. I just feel like I've seen enough from him. I've seen enough misses. I've seen enough incompletions of him with 2 or 3 steps on good cornerbacks, and he don't get the ball where he can do something with it. We make a lot of noise about his catching the ball and not be able to get yards after the catch. That may change once he starts getting those long balls or those balls just, again, in areas where the defense can't get it and he can do something with it. Todd Bowles' greatest compliment he felt like he can give Tom Brady after he got pissed. I don't think he got pissed, but I think he got tired of hearing, questions about Tom Brady. But he said the best compliment I can give is that he throws great incompletions. He puts the ball where he puts the ball where defenses routinely have a hard time trying to get that ball. That hasn't been the case for Mike Evans since he's been in the NFL. This year could be that case for him.
No, it's funny how little we've talked about Mike Evans this offseason. And he really is having you brought up Randy Moss, a Randy Moss-like career. He's really on that track. And maybe with the added national attention this year, maybe some other people who might not be familiar with his track record will finally take notice of the terrific career that he's had. And one of the things I've always liked about Mike, I mean, he's obviously a big and physical receiver, but he's as competitive as it gets, and he really wants to be an all-time great. He's not satisfied. Trust me, he's not satisfied. He wants to be one of the best of all time. So, I'm really excited to see what happens for him this season.
No, and I wholeheartedly agree, man. He's actually already one of my favorite Bucks of all time, and I can tell you I wasn't pounding the table for him either as a draft pick. That draft, I wanted what I still want. I wanted a defensive tackle to be lined up next to another good defensive tackle in Tampa Bay. I wanted Aaron Donald at that pick. I talked about it forever. I'm still talking about that forever. I just wanted to see 2 potentially dominant defensive tackles, defensive players on the line in Tampa. But Mike Evans has gone above and beyond in being one of the best players in any position in Tampa. He's done nothing but get better. He's improved on every single thing that was an issue with him coming out of college. I thought he was one of those guys. Well, in fact, he was one of those guys who relied a hell of a whole lot on just his physical talent, his height, his size, and just being bigger, stronger than his defenders. This cat can run routes. This cat can catches with his hands away from his body. This dude does it all. He's on and off the field. He's been exactly what you want a franchise player to be for your team, and I absolutely love that cat. Absolutely love him.
Well, going back to early in his career, 2014, 15, 16, 17. I mean, a lot of his production was tied to volume.
Yeah.
But go back to 2017, 14.1 yards per catch. Each of the past 2 seasons, he's been well over 17 yards per catch. So you're seeing him. I mean, he's seeing a lot of targets, yes, but you're seeing him do more with the football even than he had been. And five touchdown catches, 2017, 8 touchdown catches in each of the past 2 seasons. So I mean, it's hard for me to see, barring injury, of course, hard for me to not see him getting his 7th straight 1,000-yard receiving season and maybe another 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, it all starts in week 1 when he's going to be matched up against Marshawn Lattimore, who basically had a hell of a season with him, or at least he had a hell of a 2 games against him last year. A lot of that didn't have a damn thing to do with Mike Evans, though. But yeah, it's going to be a different story this year. And again, it all starts next week against the Saints. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a good thing. I've never used the word amazing so many times in my life. But I do want to kind of revisit real quick before I move on to what I believe is going to be the biggest thing that I'm going to be watching out for next week. So Tom Brady and Drew Brees, again, 3-2 in the matchup with the favor going to Drew Brees. Which of those 2 quarterbacks you think has more to, not more to prove, but has more to offer against the opposing defenses? Like the defenses we know in Tampa, we got the young core of cornerbacks, the entire secondary. What the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can do against Drew Brees, because he's a shorter quarterback, is kind of rush him up the middle, which is kind of always been like the talk for him. If you can get push up the middle, he can't see. He has to scramble out of the pocket. He has to do all kinds of things just to get the ball out if they're not a quick pass, which he's been good at. Do you foresee him being able to pull that off with the defensive talent that the Bucs have coming back this season? He only played against them last season once, and his competition on the other side of the field was, he upped them out a whole lot. We gave the ball away 4 times based on just interceptions last year, and on that game against Breeze. But do you see Breeze having a decent time, or at least being able to get the ball out as fast as he's done so in the past with this newer defense?
Well, so going back to, what was it, week 11 last year? That was the game Drew Brees played against the Bucs. I think that was
week 11. Yep.
31-17, was that the final score?
Yep, 34-17.
34-17. Yeah. So, I was going back and looking at that game a little bit. So, one thing about that game is there was no Jamel Dean. Right. He started the next week. So maybe maybe that's a factor in the Bucs' favor come week 1 this time around. We have Davis and Dean on the outside, and Murphy Bunting as on the inside. I remember in that game, Murphy Bunting struggled in coverage, particularly against Michael Thomas. I believe in Murphy Bunting's coverage, Brees targeted Thomas 4 times, and Thomas caught all 4 passes for either a touchdown or a first down. Something else to watch, though, because Thomas does so much work. We think of him as, you sometimes think of a number 1 receiver as a guy who's working the sidelines, right? But
yeah, he's a slot guy as well.
Obviously, it just can kill you wherever. And one play in particular that I remember was, the Bucs were still hanging around. This is 3rd quarter, and it's 20-10. The Saints have a 10-point lead. The Bucs get them to, I think it's 3rd and short. It might have been 3rd and 3. And Thomas runs a crosser over the middle, and Brees backpedals a little bit, waits, and as soon as Thomas clears behind the middle linebacker, Devin White, hits Thomas in stride, and it catches Devin White flat-footed, and Thomas goes up the sideline for a 41-yard gain, I think it was. And then Saints went on, I think, to score a touchdown. And that really was the dagger. So I think one of the, absolutely, I think Breeze can carve up this defense again. This could be another shootout like it was in Week 1 in 2018. These guys could be airing it out. I think the key to me is beyond the secondary. I think the secondary holding up is an obvious key, but how Devin White plays in coverage. Breeze just picked on him last time, and he was a rookie, but I think he was targeted 11 times, and the Saints caught all 11 passes. So that on the Bucs side, I think that's an X factor is Devin White and his progression. It'd be good to see, after he struggled against the Saints the last time out, take a step forward this time and hold his own. Linebackers of course are always vulnerable to those short passes.
Yeah. So
the completion percentage is always going to be high, but the fact that Breeze went after him, 11 times, I think is telling.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize, but yeah, I had 12 for 12 for 96 yards. No touchdowns on them, but again, once you get somebody to 12 for 12, then you might as well. You're definitely getting picked on. You're getting your ass whooped. But yeah, 12 for 12 Breeze was for 96 yards against Devin White on all his targets. So
yeah. Thank you. Number, an early first round pick, lots of promise around Devin White. What better time to show up than Week 1 against a division rival and the Saints. If they can kind of limit those Michael Thomas and those explosive plays, the Saints won't run away with the game this time.
I hope not, man. I'll be so goddamn pissed. I lose it. Just lose it. So going ahead on my last thing, not my last thing, but yeah, pretty much my last thing I want to talk about. I think the biggest factor is something that I'm going to be looking at outside of the two quarterbacks, the coaches. The coaches are going to be a big focal point for me. Again, Sean Payton has had a hell of a good time against the Bucs. It feels like since he's come to town in New Orleans. This is Bruce Arians' second year in the NFC South, and I had terribly mixed feelings about him and his presence and what he was doing last year. Based on what you've seen between the two coaches last year, were there any kind of tendencies that stood out to you from Peyton that contrasted what Bruce Arians did with his offense?
Well, I think one of the things that might not necessarily show up, on the stat sheet, or even when you're watching the games, but you kind of notice over time is, Breeze and Peyton have been together since 2006, I think, and this is the first year of Arians and Tom Brady. They both, Peyton and Arians, run, broadly versions of the Air Coryell offense. Obviously though, the Saints run a much different, version. They're running shorter routes. They're more horizontal than the Bucs. And then part of that is Bruce Arians' instructions. Brady, I think, said it at some point this offseason, it seems simple, but football is like you see an open guy, you throw it, you throw it to the open guy, and that's that's his philosophy. That's not Arians' philosophy. He wants you to go for the killer plays, the chunk plays, and I think when you watch the Saints, you see they're an offense that will just take what will manipulate the defense at the line of scrimmage and will take what the defense gives them. I expect to see a little bit more of that from the Bucs this season than we have in the past. But I think what I come away from watching the Saints and just is what's remarkable to me is and the advantage that they have is their continuity. Like I said, Breeze and Payton since 2006. There's also Pete Carmichael, their offensive coordinator, has been there for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of I think of it like when you're playing a board game with family members, and you're playing, you're playing with like your brother or your sister on a team. Like there's you guys have a code, an unspoken language that you guys understand. And Arians and Brady are still kind of developing, and Leftwich, are still developing that relationship. Like that kind of just in that. The intuitive language, so that's again, that's not necessarily that something that shows up in the stat sheet or on the game film, but when you watch the Saints over the years, I mean that's something that's really remarkable to me is the kind of built-in advantage that you have when you've kind of got a group like that has been together for, more than a decade, 14, 15 seasons.
Yeah, and just revisiting your point about Arians and his love for the deep ball and chunk plays and stuff like that, it's so hard, man. It is so damn hard to catch a beat on Bruce Arians because he says one thing and then he'll say something else that completely contradict that, or he'll do one thing and then he says something that contradicts what he does and or what he says. I remember in his first few interviews or press conferences with the Bucs last year, someone made mention of his taking chunk plays and how well it would play into the world of the former starting quarterback, and how he liked to throw chalk plays and big plays and so forth. And Bruce Arians made a point to say that, like, people love to think that I like to dial up big plays. He was like, that was all Carson Palmer in Arizona. He was like, he was the one throwing the ball. There were routes underneath such and such, like the decision to throw the ball deep. That wasn't me every play. And people who have studied or who have watched a lot of Bruce Arians' offense, be it in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, or Arizona, like they all make that connection that he dials up a whole lot of deep plays, long developing routes, so forth, and everything. And then it just made me think, like, yo, that's basically like a lateral move from Dirk Cutter. Everything that Dirk Cutter got blamed for, everything that Dirk Cutter was shunned for, was present in Bruce Arians. Everything. Every single thing. Long development plays. Throwing chunk, big plays all the time, going for big yards, not having underneath routes, which is, absolutely false. But all of those things just came to pass as, Bruce Arians doing the exact same thing as the previous coach. But it's just so hard to catch a beat on him, man. I don't know what his plan is.
Well, I mean, I don't think he wants you to, right? I mean, like that's one of the things, right? As somebody who follows the team, right? And you follow the team as well. I mean, for all of us, it's one of the things that can be kind of entertaining about Arians and frustrating at the same time. I mean, his job isn't right. His job isn't to be honest with us. His job's to he might think his job is to confuse us sometimes, and it's amusing to me that you brought up the point about Carson Palmer and him putting that on Carson. I mean, it's just it's such. I mean, I won't call it a lie, but that's totally misleading. That's baloney. I mean, there's a quote that I've brought up a couple of times from Arians' book, The Quarterback Whisperer, and it's this. He said, "I constantly told Andrew Luck to take a shot if the defense appeared vulnerable based on its pre-snap formation. If it's 3rd and 3 and you got T.Y. Hilton on a deep route, then throw the effing ball to T.Y. I tell Andrew, I don't care that we only need 3 yards. Throw the ball to T.Y. So that is Bruce Arians. He doesn't care whether you just need 3 yards. He wants you to go for the kill.
That's just ridiculous. It kills me. Like it just kills me so bad. I'm like, man. And I love to hear him talk. I won't even lie. I think there's something wrong with me because I absolutely love to hear him talk. But I know good and damn well I don't trust it. I don't trust half of what he says. It's entertaining as hell. He's a hell of a quote machine. And, I have no reason to think he's not a decent person, a good guy, or a good coach or what have you. I don't know that. I'm going to find that out this year, though. I will find out starting week 1 against the Saints. But I don't know how good of a coach he is. All I know how good he is at entertaining the hell out of me. And I brought up the comparison with him and Dirk Cutter. Obviously, you mentioned the Quarterback Whisperer moniker, which was, basically the title of a book that he agreed to name it. Someone else came up with it, but, people started running with it. I have my issues with that. Obviously, I honestly don't think that he's a quarterback whisperer. There's nothing in his history that if you took just a half look at it, that would validate that whole quarterback whisperer thing. But again, I want to play for you right now. I want to play for you, the listeners, the last press conference that the head coach before Bruce Arians came into town. I'll play a clip for you of how his press conference ended in his last year. Then I'll play again Bruce Arians' last press conference of the year last year. This is Dirk Cutter, his last press conference in Tampa when we all knew that he was going to get fired. And it's all because of the same reason. And this is what happened. 1 second.
Dirk, when you look back on this season, just in 5-11, with the talent that's here, what do you think were the main problems this year?
Not even close. Turnovers. I mean, the turnover margin to be whatever minus 16, minus 18, whatever we were, it was even today. But, we just dug ourselves a hole way too many times in the turnover margin. And
that was Dirk Cutter. Dirk Cutter got fired. Exact same reason. This is the exact same reason why that was a losing season in 2018 is the exact same reason that was a losing season in 2019. Last season, Bruce Arians' first year. Bruce Arians talked up his quarterback at the time all year, all off season. This is how the final press conference of the 2019 season ended for Bruce Arians.
Can you get past leading the league in giveaways? Can you get past that?
No, because you're not going anywhere. You're going home. You're going home when you lead the league in giveaways. You're never going to play in the playoffs unless you're playing for Steelers in the 70s.
So Bruce Arians, when I look at these lateral moves and I talk about Bruce Arians and how good he may or may not be as a head coach, I look at stuff like that. Bruce Arians had he had such an up and down season last year. More down than up. I won't even bullshit you. Anybody who's listening, I'm a Bucs fan, 100%. I'm not falling into the foolishness though. It was way more downs than ups. Bruce Arians made a whole lot of crazy talks. He had made a whole lot of crazy quotes. He did a whole lot of dumb stuff, I thought, as a head coach. He did some things I didn't think that you should be doing as a head coach. Again, he may be a good coach. He has a hell of a roster now, but he made some mistakes last year that were ridiculous. Some mistakes that cost a game or two. Ridiculous things. So when I look at the matchup between Sean Payton and Bruce Arians, these are the kind of things I come up with. Another reason why I question Bruce Arians and his mindset and why it always confuses me as to how good of a coach he is and how strong of an area is that for the Bucs. Outside of the roster, what else do the Bucs have going? Because it's going to be a whole lot that determines this season, and part of it is going to be the coaching as well as the mental health of the team. We don't have a bye week until week 12. Do we have the kind of coach who can motivate a roster with this much talent, can handle this many personalities? All these guys who are on one-year contracts who are trying to boost their personal stats and their personal presence in the league to ensure that they can get a contract next year. Can he handle all of the stuff that comes with it? It takes a special kind of coach to manage this kind of mentality. It took a Phil Jackson to manage a Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. It took a Bill Belichick to manage Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, and everybody else. And he treated all those guys, allegedly, he treated all of them the same, for better or worse. Bruce Arians is going to have to do the very best job he has ever had to do. He has never had this much pressure, never had this many eyes. Sean Payton right now has the advantage over Bruce Arians, and I hate it. Is there anything that you can think of a redeeming quality from Bruce Arians that make you think that just week one, we'll go into the rest of the season a little bit later, but week one, you think Bruce Arians can get this team ready in 7 days to come out and become victorious against the Saints, against Sean Payton, against a 14-year relationship with his quarterback and his offensive coordinator?
I think, yes, Bruce Arians, made some mistakes last season. I think he made some decisions last year that cost him a couple of football games. I'm thinking about the fourth down decisions in the Giants game.
Yeah, and I apologize. I interrupt you. This is what you're talking about. The fourth down decision with the kicker. This was his excuse for taking the penalty in that game. This is what he said in the press conference.
Bruce, what happened at the end there when you got the 5-yard penalty delay? What happened there?
I just took it on purpose.
You took it on purpose?
Yeah, I want the field goal. He's better back there. That field goal is easier back 5 yards. No sense hurrying. We wanted to move the ball over, put it in the middle, and make it an easy field goal.
Coach, you had two.
Kudos to whatever reporter it was that actually said, what? What you say? Say it again? And he was bold enough to say it again. That did cause the game. I apologize. I had to interrupt you, but that shit killed me and then pissed me off so bad. Continue. I apologize.
Yeah, there was also a decision earlier in that game where I think they chose to punt on a 4th and 1. Granted they were Giants territory, but you're likely to convert a 4th and 1, and a 4th and 1 conversion there, maybe puts away the game, and you don't find yourself in some of these other situations. But I think the thing that Bruce Arians has going for him is his staff believes in him, and his players believe in him, and I don't sense any kind of dissension, in that organization. I think we started to see some cracks with Dirk Cutter in his final season. Brought on by the Jameis Winston suspension, but the back and forth with the Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston and his management of the situation. Which was really, in Cutter's defense, an impossible situation. But I don't detect, anything but belief in Bruce Arians and his and his style, his system. So. I don't see. I expect the Bucs to be ready come week 1, and I think it's a good thing that remember when the schedule came out, there was a lot of concern over, how dare the NFL hates us. They're putting us in New Orleans week 1. We'll have no time to prepare. I think this is a total. The fact that this is week 1 against the Saints in New Orleans, where there's as I understand it, no crowd. This totally works in the Bucs' favor. Plus the Saints won't have any idea, just like the rest of us, what this Bucs offense is going to look like. And we have at least some idea what the Saints offense is going to look like. So I'm expecting a really competitive game. But I think Bruce Arians and his squad will come out ready, and it's not it's not as though Bruce it's all on Bruce Arians here either. He's got a good offensive coordinator, I think, in Byron Leftwich, and obviously, I think almost a coach by default in Tom Brady. So they'll come out ready, and they'll be competitive.
Damn sure hope so. I mean, I honestly believe that that'll be the case as well. But again, it's just my nature to pull up anything that may or may not be a red flag, anything that may or may not be 100%. And I don't know. I'm just gonna be really, really interested to see how Bruce Arians handles week 1 in the pressure, because he obviously feels good, or at least again on the outside he looks like he feels good about what's happening outside of the kicker situation. Sweet Moses. He feel like he has a good team, and he's ready to roll. So it's just gonna be super. It's gonna be super fun, man. This time next week, Sunday, again, we'll be talking about how either the Bucs are going to the Super Bowl undefeated, or talking about how fire Jason Light, #weapons. It's a hashtag. It's a Buck life. Blame Jameis, all other kinds of bullshit. It's gonna be one extreme or another, man. And I'm so excited. I wish there were fans around. Actually, I don't wish there were fans in New Orleans, but I mean, I do. It's gonna be weird. I'm trying to think of how the NBA has done such a terrific job with their NBA bubble and their fan situation. I'm just so curious to see how the NFL handles the no fan situation for a lot of these stadiums. And New Orleans obviously is one of the toughest places for Bucs to play, because that crowd is raucous and ridiculous every single game, no matter if they're winning or losing. But I'm so damn excited. So damn excited.
Yeah, and if you're really looking for something to kind of to rein in the hype, the one thing to watch this season, I'm expecting the offense isn't going to turn the ball over like it did last year.
It can't.
So we'll see some improvement there. I don't know that I'm not predicting like a top 5 offense, but if this offense can be, middle of the average to just slightly above average, this should be a playoff caliber team. But the one thing to watch for is the defense and whether last season's improvement carries over to this season. Now, there's something called the plexiglass principle, which is that when a defense significantly improves in one season, the next season they're likely to backtrack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the Bucks have a relatively young defense, so there's still room for growth. So that's so maybe we don't see all that much regression, but that is something to watch for. Especially I think they're pretty thin. Just about at every level there. Yes, they've got multiple defensive backs, but if you lose a Carlton Davis for any significant amount of time, or Jamel Dean or Murphy Bunting, I mean, you're or Levante David or Devin White, Shaq Barrett, you're Ndamukong Suh. I mean, beyond the front line, there's not a whole lot of depth on this team. So that's something that concerns me. And if you're looking for a comp, there's the 2015 Jets, who, led by Todd Bowles, had one of the largest turnarounds in the NFL, largest defensive turnarounds in the NFL, and also had the number 1 rush defense that year. The 2016 Jets fell back quite a bit. In terms of DVOA rankings, they fell from 6th to 23rd in 2016. They were still the number 1 run defense, so that might carry over, but their pass defense declined significantly. Now, part of that was, Darrelle Revis was finished at that point. But the point being that defense can be really volatile from one season to the next. It's not as consistent as offense. So if you're looking for one area to kind of watch is that defensive improvement, and how much of it carries over to this coming season. I think chances are the offense gets a bit better, should be average to just slightly above average at the least. I don't know that this is going to be a top 5 defense again, but if it's top 10, this should be a 9-7 at least football team that should get in as a number 6 or number 7 seed. So just one thing to, I know there's a lot of Super Bowl hype right now, but I think 9 wins is 9-7 is a realistic target.
And just to say something on that too, man, at 9-7, if you remember, 9-7 is exactly what the 2016 Bucks, what they end up getting with Dirk Cutter in his first year. That 9-17 was led by efforts from the defense more than anything all year. And also to follow up with the point of the defense not being able to repeat itself for one reason or another. If you remember that 2017 defense that followed that 2016 9-7 season, that team was hit by injuries unlike any other team that I can remember in Bucks history in at least the past 10 years. Every player on every starter, I think, missed at least 2 games. So that was one of the reasons why the defense just went kaput.
That's a good point. That also happened in 2018. They were hit hard again by injuries on defense.
Right.
And what happened in 2019? They were one of the more healthy defenses in the NFL. So
exactly.
If they that turnaround in part down the stretch last year was led by a large number of turnovers. I think over the last from week 12 on, I think they had 13 takeaways, which were tied for second most. So if and turnovers are one of those other things like health that can be really volatile from one season to the next. So there are some warning signs here. As I wrote in the almanac, the things that they have going for them is some continuity in terms of coaching and players. There's been very little turnover on this defense. In fact, it might have gotten better with the drafting of Winfield. And plus, you're not going to have a defense that has to run back on the field constantly after interceptions.
Yeah, that was tiresome. I swear that was the worst. The Bucs basically finished 32nd bottom of the league the last 2 seasons, and over the last 5 seasons they were bottom 5 in turnover and giveaways. While the defense was top 10 pretty much every year, with the exception of 2000 and I believe 18, and that was the one time that everybody actually noticed that the turnover ratio was lopsided. Prior to that, nobody gave a damn that the defense was taking the ball away. Basically, top 5, top 10, best in the league over the past few years. It didn't matter until 2018 when the Bucs basically had like a freaking minus 16 turnover ratio, turnover to giveaway ratio. So again, that was one of those things that people just didn't pay attention to until it seemed to fit into an excuse for them. Hopefully that all changes this year and they kind of see the efforts that the defense has actually been putting over for the past few years, minus the injuries in 2017. And if they don't have their back against the wall, they can actually show what they can do. That's kind of the hope for me going forward for the entire season. And again, it all starts next week, 4:25 kickoff, I believe, in the Crescent City against that team in New Orleans. And that evil genius, Sean Payton and his crew. Again, I'm super excited about that game coming up. We're about to get out of here, man. I've had you on for a while. Again, I appreciate your time. I thank you for sharing the knowledge that you did. Again, being a contributor to the Football Outsiders Football Almanac. You studied both teams. You have a vast knowledge of what was going on between the two of them and kind of got an analysis there. And I thank you for your time. How can these cats listening today, whenever they get the podcast, how can everybody find you and find your work?
Yeah, the best place to find me is on Twitter. I'm at Tometrics, which is TOMETRICS, and there, I'll post, I'll post any news stories or updates on Football Outsiders content. And right now, I believe if you go to footballoutsiders.com, I believe there's a sale right now on the almanac. So if you want to get caught up before the season starts, you can get a PDF copy there at a discount. If you prefer the printed book, that's an option too. You can go to Amazon.com and search for the Football Outsiders Almanac 2020.
Solid, so solid. Again, man, thank you for your time. Before I get out of here, man, fellow Bucs fans, late last week, one of the bigger Bucs fans, a big Bucs fan in Tampa, passed away. Cody Michael Williams was he was a member of the What the Buck charity group. What the Buck in Tampa. That charity group is just just it's a ridiculous group of people, super fans, regular fans, and all, who put so much time and so much effort into a bunch of charities in the not just the Tampa area but the Central Florida area. Cody was a key member of that group. I didn't know him personally as well as a lot of other people who attend these tailgates that What the Buck puts on. But I always recognized him. I've spoken to him. He was always a super cool cat, and he was always on the grill. If you go to the tailgates, you probably remember him. Big guy on the grill, always handing out stuff whenever they were throwing toys around, throwing beads around. Again, big member of the What the Buck charity group. He passed away late last year. I'm sorry, not late last year, but late last week. I want to send condolences to the What the Buck group. Also send condolences to his family. When you pray for yours, pray for his as well. A lot of us are just tied to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and our fandom. Some of us take it a whole lot more seriously than others. He was one of those guys who took it seriously. He was a big fan. He brought a lot of smiles to a lot of Bucs fans at all the tailgates. Again, man, when you pray for yours, pray for his as well. I'm sorry that cut off a little bit. But again, man, that's it for tonight, man. Thomas, I thank you for your time. And I'll catch you on the next one. But thank you all for listening. God willing, I'll talk to you guys sooner than later. Go Bucs. Hey, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that cut off way sooner than I thought it should have. But yeah, man, thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. I hope that was helpful and interesting and illuminating. So no, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
It was all those things, man. How's the you moved in, you settled in?
Oh man, what a crazy it's it's always harder than you think, and there's just more to do than you think. So we